Welcome back to The Price of Business. I'm your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. The folks there who are trying to make a stand regarding the situation in Ferguson continue to take a stand that hurts their own credibility. They continue to commit, really, publicity suicide. And what they do is they're here they are a year later, commemorating the death of what do they like to say, Sigmund Kramer, an unarmed black man who was only disarmed by a law enforcement official moments before he got killed. He actually had, the Justice Department determined that that police officer was threatened, that his life was threatened. I don't think it was a gun. It was like a knife or something like that. But had that, taken away just moments before, this guy's not
a gentle
innocent.
giant. They called him a gentle giant.
Right. And he's anything but. And
he had just roughed up a shop owner.
Yeah.
A few minutes or a couple of hours before.
Literally just before. And they continue to romanticize this character. They have huge events. And I see these people, I see senior citizens at these events laying on the ground because there's gunfire out there. And I'm like going, why in the world are you showing up at an event like this?
Kids.
And by the way, they were white senior citizens at that.
Yeah, but they had kids there, too.
They had their kids there like this is a kumbaya moment. As if two different gangs apparently showed up. There may have been more than two, but these two ran into each other, don't like each other, and why not battle it out and get some built-in news coverage in the process? This is just insanity, pure insanity.
Yeah.
Fox News is on it.
Overnight in Ferguson, another tense night on the streets there. Police arrested nearly 24 during the fourth consecutive night of demonstrations that marked 1 year since Michael Brown was shot and killed by a police officer. Earlier in the day, protesters blocking a major highway near St. Louis. Just as the evening rush hour was getting started, backing up traffic for miles. Police made at least 50 arrests at that location. Will Carr live in Ferguson this morning, and police had another busy night. Will?
That's right, Bill. 23 people arrested overnight throughout the entire day yesterday. About 150 people wound up behind bars here in the streets of Ferguson. We're still in a state of emergency here after there were some tense moments last night just after 10 p.m. That's when protesters turned violent. They started throwing rocks. They started throwing frozen water bottles, even pieces of asphalt that they found in the road, all at police officers. Authorities quickly jumped on the people who were violent there. They broke up the crowds. Listen to one protester explain why she wanted to be in the streets of Ferguson last night.
Why are you out here and why are we back here with the unrest again a year later?
Because we still want to see change. We want to see police reform and we want to see court reform, and you can move that back.
Earlier yesterday, protesters flooded onto I-70, which is nearby. During rush hour traffic, they set up barricades and brought traffic to a standstill. Around 60 people ended up being arrested because of that. Before that, an additional 64 were arrested while protesting at a local courthouse. At the same time, Michael Brown's father took to Facebook yesterday saying, quote, "Our marches were all done very peacefully, so please be careful, mindful, and protect yourselves from those who would like to see this be unsuccessful." The good news, Bill, there were no injuries yesterday, no shots fired, and no looting, all of which happened here Sunday night.
You wonder what the locals think now? They're going through this again. How are business owners reacting, Will?
Yeah, that's right. The scars are still fresh from the riots that happened this past November. Businesses closed early yesterday. Some are opening late today. Some business owners have taken it upon themselves to arm themselves and sit in their stores for the past 2 nights. Others are pleading for people to make good decisions moving forward for this community.
These people that want to do this destruction and they want to call everybody racist are taking these nice people that aren't racist and leaning them to the edge a little bit. You're not doing good for your own people, and you got to stop this stuff.
While county leaders contemplate a curfew tonight, business leaders tell us that they're simply hanging in there. Bill.
Thank you, Will. Will Carr, again live this morning in Ferguson, Missouri.
Yeah, it's just, it's a continuing saga. By the way, he didn't apparently have a weapon. What he did instead, Michael Brown did, is go for the weapon of the police officer.
Right.
Which means he either shoots Michael Brown or he makes himself at risk of being injured himself.
Well,
and that police officer, by the way, exonerated by his own police department, exonerated in the court of law, even exonerated by Eric Holder's Justice Department. Exonerated anywhere you can think of. The guy's career is ruined. He has nothing.
His life is ruined.
Neither him nor his wife are able to work as a result of this. He can't get jobs anywhere in any industry.
Right. I know. And, you heard that lady that was being interviewed saying what she wanted to accomplish. She wanted to accomplish big changes and in the law and to have, the court reform. And my thought is the only court reform that you're going to have is that they're going to have to make more room on the docket, and they're going to have to make more room in the holding cells. That's the kind of court reform you're looking at when you have 150 people get arrested, in one day.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not helping your cause. You're not helping anything. And the guy, the shop owner who said, look, you're turning people who are not racist, leaning them kind of on the edge.
And no question about it. And people that were already kind of grumpy before are going to go, why bother being polite? Why even bother being polite? Frankly, I felt some of that before, and I'm like, I consider myself very color neutral. I was raised in a very color neutral environment. My parents were incredibly progressive when it came to this. When I was extremely young, my dad told me the story about when he used to, when he was little, they were so poor. He was raised during the Great Depression. He was born in 1920. He would go to school carrying his shoes. They wouldn't let him wear his shoes until he got to school because he had to have shoes at school, trying to extend the life of his shoes.
Yeah.
And on the way to school one day, he accidentally stepped on glass. And he told his story with great affection, and some people just walked by and said, "Oh, poor kid," and that type of thing. But a black lady in that street came out from her house, literally picked up my dad, took him to the house, put him on the porch, cleaned the wound, took care of the wound, and he was choked up telling the story decades, well over a half a century later, telling me that story. I was raised in that kind of context. My very first best friend, Joe Cosby, was a black, and so I always considered myself like the most open-minded person out there, and then after several years of writing critical articles about Barack Obama, which, by the way, I wrote critical articles about George Bush before him and critical articles about Clinton. I've been writing critical articles about politicians my whole adult life, being told over and over and over again, I am a racist because I'm critical of the policy, not of the skin color of the policymaker.
Right.
I am sick of it. I am totally sick of it. And so I now have a very thin margin of hearing the use of the race card. It needs to be used really appropriately or not at all. And let me tell you, my friend, this is exactly why Donald Trump is on fire. This is why, because there's a huge number of people out there. Donald Trump is directly correlated to Ferguson. There's a lot of people out there, even though he hasn't talked anything about ethnicity other than Mexicans, that see a guy here, if you pick on him, you're picking on all of us, and we're all collectively tired of being picked on. And by the way, I have to say for the millionth time, I don't support Donald Trump. I understand why Donald Trump is a phenomenon.
Yeah, and the fact is that the people in Ferguson, I have friends who live in the St. Louis area, and they're scared to death. They were a year ago, too, when the riots happened. And it's very disheartening that what's happening is not bringing people together. You're getting anger. Oh, by the way, 50th anniversary of the Watts riots. Did you know that? Coinciding with this.
Oh, boy, God.
Yeah,
my
and so you've got people who are angry. The black people are very angry, and deservedly so in certain circumstances. And
deservingly so, no question about it.
But what's happening is they're only, when you attack Bernie Sanders...
Oh, my gosh.
At one of his rallies with a Black Lives Matter, attack, and they try to take the microphone, and
they're and
they're vicious, and they're mean, and they're ugly, and there's nothing that's helping their cause.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing in Ferguson. When you've got people, a cop got shot at or got shot, it's not helping the cause. All you're doing is, like that man said, people who weren't racist are now thinking, maybe the next time I'm around a bunch of people like black youth or something and they're being rowdy, maybe I need to call the cops. They wouldn't have done it before, but now you've put the fear of God into them. You think that now they're afraid for their lives, for their family's life, because they've got some angry people who God knows what they're going to do.
No question about it.
So who's that helping?
And what they're doing is they're making a much more dangerous and scary situation for blacks in general. So you got cops who are now assuming when they approach a car that they're dealing with an angry black person when they see a black person because of what they've seen. And so they're going to start acting stupid. I'm not justifying cop behavior. That cop who arrested that woman for essentially smoking in her car is why, that was stupid.
The cop that shot the black man in the head and the guy died at a traffic stop.
Right.
And the guy was just driving away. Okay, he shouldn't have driven away. Should the cop have shot him to death?
Yeah, well, he did that like he was going for his glove box, but
he was driving away. I mean, the fact is there's definitely a problem with the way the police are interacting with the public. Okay, we get it. There's a problem
with the way the public is interacting with the police,
or the public is interacting with the public.
It's the scariest job in the world. I've had friends in law enforcement, and when you're approaching a car and you don't know what you're going to be dealing with, it's incredibly frightening.
Absolutely.
And so, you know what? My dad would say, settle down.
Right.
Just settle down. Everyone needs to settle down. We need some rationality here, and we simply are not seeing that. All right. When we come back, much more for you, and you are listening to The Price of Business.